Yup, I did all the other albums, so as soon as Endless Forms Most Beautiful came out, I had to do it. And by the way, if there's still all this crying over Terria should still be in Nightwish, let me show you this. Yeah, that's right. That's Terria and Floor performing Over the Hills and Far Away together 10 days after Floor was announced as the permanent singer for Nightwish. 3 words: get over it. They seem to be. Now, I pretty much went over the history and events leading up to this album on the other video, so I'm not going to go over them. All we really need to know is, of course, expectations and anticipations are once again at an all-time high. Those who did not care for Annette Olzon or the direction the band took with the albums during her tenure could now look forward to something more familiar but managed to be different and fresh. Like its predecessor, Endless Forms carries a central theme throughout, and what is that theme this time? Earth's natural evolution, and I can see why Tuum has picked this theme. Band is evolving and he's pushing forward towards something bigger. Plus, it is something that interests him, as he admitted he wanted to be a biologist growing up before he became a musician. Whereas Imaginarum was a celebration of life as an individual and the imagination aspect of it, Endless Form celebrates the broader subject of life evolving and adapting, ultimately our place in the universe. Now, speaking of evolution and biology, some of you may be wondering about my whole stance on the subject matter, especially with Richard Dawkins being a guest narrator. Believe it or not, I actually am somewhat of an astronomy and science nut, so the fact that the songs have this subject matter, or reminds me of it, I absolutely love. So I was very excited about it when I heard the central theme. It's like I share a common interest with the songwriter. Now, I have said before that I do believe in an intelligent creator, but I also believe science and spirituality / faith can coexist together, and see science as evidence of a creator, not disproving of one. However, this is a video review about a band's album, not a video about my beliefs or Nightwish's personal beliefs. This is, once again, an album review of new music that I love. So if I see any comments that start a religion war, they will be deleted. Let's talk about the music, please. Moving on, how does Endless Forms Most Beautiful hold up sound-wise? Let's remember, Nightwish has 4 essential elements to their sound: heavy, power, melodic, and folk, all fitting into their symphonic metal side. All through the years, each album has had 1 or 2 of these elements being more prominent, with the others taking a back seat. For example, Imaginarum, the power metal was almost non-existent, while most of it was very melodic and folky. Here, Endless Forms Most Beautiful has all 4 elements rather evenly represented, in my opinion, so there's something for everyone. Songs with speed and heaviness that pack a punch to appeal to the metal fans, plus there are the beautiful melodic folky songs that appeal to the non-metal fan, and everything in between. What's different on this album is the music back to being more on the heavier side compared to its predecessor, and instead of the orchestra and theatrics taking the center stage and almost putting the band in the background, here it's the opposite, where the guitars and keyboards are more prominent, and the orchestra is not as loud but still noticeable enough to be the icing on the cake, much like it was in the Century Child Once days. It's like the band pulled sounds out of their older catalog but gave it a more modern feel, so there's definitely some good surprises here that Nightwish has managed to pull off. As I'm going over the songs, let's remember that this album is very young to me still, and I've only had it a few days. So a lot of opinions here are still first impressions, and the songs have not necessarily grown on me as the rest of the catalog has. First song, Shudder Before the Beautiful, and my first 3 words in reaction to this were, oh, hell yes! This is definitely a great album opener, similar to Dark Chest of Wonders. And yeah, my first impression of it was the guitar riff was like a faster version of Storytime, which didn't bug me too much. This song has no long intro, no big grandiose opening like the previous two albums, just a few spoken words by Richard Dawkins, and it explodes into a fast song just like that. And then the guitars kick in after the orchestra introduces the melody, which I think is awesome. I also love that I hear Impu's guitar a lot more in the mix than on the previous album. As for Floor, her voice is definitely more on the rock side here, but she does increase her range the more louder the song gets. One thing that was brought back that was surely missed was Thomas and his keyboard solos. Here he trades solos with Impu for the bridge, and it's easily the best part of the song, along with the choirs after it. Definitely a reminder of the earlier days, and I can easily see this song kicking off the concerts for the upcoming tour. Second song on this album is Weak Fantasy. And with this one, the drums and grooves are the best thing about this one, and I do love the sheer heaviness in it. And it was something direly missed for me. It's also pretty dynamic well, with the verses being more acoustic and the chorus being really bombastic and heavy. And what I do love is that the orchestra does add to it like it's icing on the cake, but again, it's not too prominent and overwhelming. And by this time, it's very apparent that Floor's voice fits in very well with the songs, and she uses her range very well with this one. Other than that, there's not too much to say. I can definitely see this one played live as well because it's a fun song to listen to. Third song on this, Elan. Now, like the first single off Imagine Harem, I actually wasn't crazy about Elan when it came out in mid-February, but it did grow on me, and I do enjoy it. Sound-wise, it reminds me of Nemo, and I do feel it was a safe choice for the first single because it's definitely the most accessible song on the album. It has all the elements that are there and represents the band well. Why some people were going apeshit and nitpicking everything about it, I'll never know. I know people think that singles should be the album's high point, but I'm the opposite. I think singles should be teasers that are good for radio play and catching the ears of casual listeners. That way the best moments are left to be discovered, as it was on this album. Like those stupid movie trailers that essentially show the whole movie in a 3-4 minute preview and leave nothing to the imagination. Same thing applies with singles and albums. You gotta be careful with them. While it may initially disappoint some of the fans who love the metal side more, it definitely can appeal more to the outside fan the same way that Amaranth did for my wife, who also loves Nightwish almost as much as I do. As with the song live, I can definitely see it as a staple, but I hope they don't waste more setlist space by also playing all of their well-known singles to appease their casual fans. After all, there will be those in the audience like me who will want to hear different songs, especially some deep cuts. Now, I know that this next song, Sagan, is not on the album technically, and it was released as a B-side to Elan, but I may as well talk about it here in case people are wondering what I think about it. This is another Meaning of Life song, this time the adventure looking beyond it by going further, and it's a good tribute to the work by Carl Sagan. That little spacey sounding keyboard orchestral part before the chorus I really like, and I do like the rocket blasting off before the second chorus. It's a decent song, but I can see why it was left off the album and made a B-side. Not a bad song, but it probably will not be among everyone's favorites. The fourth song on the album, on the other hand, Yours is an Empty Hope. When I read all the journalist pre-listening session reviews, they made this song the one I look forward to hearing the most, and when I finally got to hear it, same reaction as I got with Shudder. Hell yes! I was blown away and instantly smiled and started headbanging. Thematically, it's different, and some people might think of it as a song that is a lash out at Annette Ozon, if you look at the lyrics of this one. It's dark, it's sinister, yet really fun to listen to. It's fast, but the difference here, the orchestral opening is more like a Hollywood soundtrack. Guitar is definitely heavier with tight riffing, and even there's hints of thrash drumming from Kai Hato. Plus, Floor uses her aggressive vocals, and even Marco joins the screaming with her. While it's not as double bass heavy as I expected, this one definitely still has the power and intensity of the brutal heavy songs like Planet Hell, Romanticide, and even Master Passion Greed. The intensity of the chorus even made me think of the band Epica. Now, of all the songs on the album, this one definitely has another link to the Sound of Ocean board, so it's an instant favorite. I surely hope they play this one live. They can really get the crowd going nuts with this one. Fifth song is where the album starts to slow down a little bit. Our Decades in the Sun. This ballad brings in the children's choir, sounds very beautiful, and it's about as close as it can get to Tuoma's solo album without going too far from Nightwish. This one is easily the most personal of all the songs, with a very touching tribute to parents. I could definitely see this song, at least the first half before the guitars kick in, as a song that the mother and groom, or even the father and daughter, can dance to at a wedding as a way of saying thank you, parents. Sixth song, My Walden, we have what Tuomas admitted as the continuation of I Want My Tears Back. Troy opens up with Gaelic singing, and it's overall a very folky but upbeat song. I actually like that they're using his singing voice here, and it's actually a soothing, welcome addition. My favorite part, however, is the last half of the song, where the beat changes to something similar to the end of Dead Boy's poem off Wishmaster, therefore sounding a little bit more old school, while adding Troy's pipes, making it new and fresh. Now, usually my wife loves the songs that make her want to do the Irish jig, so if she loves it, I love it. And if she doesn't, I still like it. Title song, Endless Forms Most Beautiful. Once again, we have a title track that's not an acoustic ballad or a soft outro to an album. It's a very upbeat and rather heavy song along the lines of Wish I Had an Angel, Bye Bye Beautiful. It even uses the little synth noise like those two songs have. While it has a decent catchy chorus, the best part is the middle breakdown in the final chorus where the intensity picks up and Floor's voice gets into higher key. Much like songs like the lines of She Is My Sin and Everdream. And it does get better every time I listen to it. Eighth song on the album, Edema Ruh. This song is almost like a reference to Nightwish themselves, as in the novel it's referencing the Edema Ruh are a group of traveling musicians who are always out and about entertaining. Now I can see why this one was almost picked as the first single, but I think Marco and Trey were right when it came to this versus Elan. Yeah, the song's very accessible and catchy, and has all the band members active, but other than that, it's not one of my favorite songs of the moment, and I still prefer Elan if I were to compare songs to similar structures. But doesn't mean the song won't grow on me later. And the same is going to go with the ninth song on the album, Alpenglow. Tuomas has said this song essentially has everything Nightwish has to offer, like a combination of all their sounds, and to me it just sounds like a generic Nightwish song. Well, I guess he has me there. There isn't much that stands out in this one, except for the pre-chorus line where Floor briefly picks up the intensity and the breakdown with Impu's guitars and Troy's flutes. And the final chorus being sung in a higher key, yeah, that's a Nightwish song, alright, but not one of my favorites, but I'm sure it'll grow on me later. 10th song on this album, The Eyes of Sharbat Gula. Now, according to an interview with Tuomas, this was originally going to be a lyrical song about children of war, but then Troy stepped in and said this song is better as an instrumental. Do I feel this one necessarily needed to be included on the album? Not really. And if they need to fit in space, they could have just put in Sagan in there, since it has the same theme as the album. But Sagan does have roughly the same structure as Alpenglow. But Tuomas always has his own vision, and he obviously put it in there for a reason. I can see this used as a potential pre-show opener, or maybe even an intermission on the PA system during the tour. But I also see this song on the album as a skipper for many who don't want to sit through 6 minutes of chants and flutes. I get what they were going for. Not a bad song. But I think I've only listened to it once or twice all the way through. Like I said, I pretty much usually skip it. Tuomas and the band likes to think of this as an intermission of some sorts where you have what he calls 9 supporting acts, 1 intermission, and then a main act. What's the main act? Well, we have reached the big one, the climax, the greatest show on earth. Finally, we have reached what is considered and promoted as the album's climax and centerpiece. What do I have to say about it? I have practically a whole page alone on this song. It was the first thing teased about as far back as during the Imaginarium tour, and has definitely had the most build-up. The fact it's 24 minutes, nearly twice as long as their typical epic songs, may shock some people, but let's remember, I'm also a big Dream Theater fan, and I love progressive metal, so I'm used to songs like this. It's like a longer version of Poet and the Pendulum, but if you want to compare this to another 24-minute epic, it reminds me of Dream Theater's The Illumination Theory, which, like this song, has a long grand intro, breaks into a heavy metal song, has a little transition section that has just ominous sounds and music, and then breaks into an even heavier tune with a distinct climax, and then closes with a long, slow outro. Flora even uses her operatic vocals for a small bit in the beginning, and uses her powerful style for actually most of the song. The long intro gives me visions of Earth's creation and early beginnings, complete with meteor impacts from the late heavy bombardment, represented by the loud bangs in this intro. And when it gets more pleasant, you start to think of the first signs of life on the planet, and it's absolutely beautiful and emotional. I can't help but feel the emotion sung by Flora in the operatic notes when I'm thinking of life's early beginning. My favorite part is the transition between the two band parts, where you hear various sounds, and it's like it's cycling through various periods of time at a lightning pace. And then the lion roars, and then it blasts into an even heavier and faster section, with Marco and Flora sharing lead vocal duties. And the band keeps going, and when they sing out, "We were here," for the climax, it makes me think that I'm flying away from the solar system, much like the Voyager probes containing information about our very existence. And then when it rumbles, I envision the end of the sun and life on Earth as we know it, which will eventually happen once our sun swells into a red giant and completely swallows the Earth. So after 17 minutes of pure orgasmic heaven, the outro comes in, and that's my only complaint about the song. It's too long. After such a great climax, the outro could have used a bit more lyrics and singing from Floor. Sure, Dawkins' quotes aren't too much, and they are compelling, but once you realize the band isn't coming back on during the final 7 minutes of the song, you start to think of listening to another song or just wait it out. The final 2 minutes of the song aren't even any music, it's just animal sounds, which we've already heard in the song before. So I will say for the record that I still like it a lot more than the stupid poem and Song of Myself. So is this the best epic song Nightwish has done? Well, it's definitely the most grandiose in terms of length, and I absolutely love the build-up from the beginning through the heavier middle chunk, essentially the first 17 minutes, up until Dawkins takes over during the soft outro. If you take out the long outro, 17 minutes is still longer than their previous epic, and it's still a fantastic piece of music. And usually for epic songs, you have to mentally prepare yourself to fully dive in so you can keep your attention and fully appreciate and love the song. But what's funny is this one, no time for me was needed for that. I kept wanting to listen to this song repeatedly every chance I got, and easily kept humming the notes because that's what I kept remembering. It's like this is probably my favorite song off the album. Easily probably the most remembered song for me at the moment. So in many aspects, it's their best epic song to date, at least for me. But each of their epics have their own qualities that I love which set them apart. In terms of the song being played live, Thomas has said they won't play the whole song, but there are definitely sections with the band they will play. So I'm guessing the middle 12 minutes, if anything, maybe even the first 17 minutes. But any more than that is going to be too much, even for a 2-hour set. They will probably use the beginning section as a pre-show opener over the PA, and then maybe play the middle chunk of the song and then use the outro as the band's taking a bow. And if I'm wrong, oh well. Some people are thinking this might be the grand finish to the show on the upcoming tour, and I can see that happening. Only time will tell if this epic will be up there with Ghost Love's score in terms of fan reaction, or if it will fade into obscurity. So what do I feel about this album as a whole? Let's remember that this album to me is young and new, and it will take at least 100,000 more listens all the way through before I can really rank it among the rest of the catalog. Like the rest of them, some songs will grow on me later and join my playlist of favorite Nightwish songs. However, with that said, I think I do love it better than Imaginarium, and I think it will be among my favorite Nightwish albums, period. Maybe it's the metalhead side of me that got me satisfied enough. I don't know. All I know is that as soon as I heard Shudder, Weak Fantasy, Empty Hope, the title track, and Greatest Show on Earth, I felt refreshed that the songwriting was going a little more back to their roots in a sense, but making it sound a bit more refined. The album surprised me by more how upbeat it was compared to the predecessor, and I definitely think it will please those who love the metal side of Nightwish a lot more. And hey, I love the subject matter. I'm intrigued by it. And even though it has a more scientific approach, I still think there's a spiritual connection with it. At least I get that feeling from listening to it. Hell, if I end up becoming a pastor of a church one day, I will make Shudder Before the Beautiful one of the worship songs, because that song just makes me feel that way. Now, some people are complaining that some songs sound similar to older songs. I could come up with many examples of bands who went in a different direction, got criticized over it, and then got criticized for trying to get back to their roots. The same thing goes here, where you have those idiots who are still butthurt over prior singers being fired and say they need to go back to their older sound and are tired of them expanding out. So when Thomas decides to cut the theatrics and experiments and writes an album musically that's a cross between Oceanborn and Once, people still say, oh, it's not original anymore. Fuck them. I love this album. All of the songs were worth the wait. This album definitely showed that after years and trials and tribulation, they are a force to be reckoned with. And I don't care what the positions might say, this band will continue to get bigger and gain more worldwide fame. With Floor Jansen at the helm, I started getting tired of those people who thought she was just going to be the same singer she is with Revamp and After Forever, and expected the new Nightwish album to sound similar to that. While there are definitely moments where she uses her trademark style, she uses her wider range, dives into softer vocals a lot more, and she herself said she didn't feel the need to write anything and fully trusted in Thomas and Marco to write the songs. After all, we're not listening to a Revamp album. So those who say she is weak because she doesn't sing all the time like she does with Revamp can suck it. I thought she fit well with this album. I love her in Nightwish, and I'm glad they chose to have her sing a wider range of styles and not just her powerful vocals. It made people like my wife, who preferred Annette, able to enjoy the songs a lot easier. As of the date of this review, the upcoming tour hasn't started yet. There's only speculation of what songs they will play as the tour starts. If the first leg of the tour will be anything like how it was last time, I'll definitely expect at least half of the set list taken up by songs off this album. The only anticipation, really, is what songs off the new album will be played, and what songs will they bring out from the vault to surprise the longtime fans with. Since Floor has that range and versatility, could we expect surprises from Oceanborn and Wishmaster that haven't been touched in over a decade? I mean, man, wouldn't it be awesome if they played Stargazers? It has the same theme as the album. Can only hope. I'm Desert Coyote 22, and thank you for listening to all of my Nightwish album reviews.